Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our second afternoon panel. Once again, I'm Stephanie Pittsnoggle. I am going to be hosting this panel discussion. I am the Economic Development Specialist at the Longmont Economic Development Partnership. And today, we're going to be talking about the entrepreneurial dilemma to give, take, or keep equity. We have three amazing panelists. I'm actually going to let the three of them introduce themselves. They've got a wealth of very interesting experience, so I'm very much looking forward to hearing what they have to say.
Hi there. Just to introduce myself, my name is David Mans. I spent about 25 years as a business consultant, primarily focused on the field of information technology and business process consulting. I spent 14 years of that working for Verizon as a global solutions consultant, performing assessment of businesses, business technology, processes, and teams. And I live here in Longmont myself with my wife and a 14-month-old who just started walking and climbing on the same day, which has been quite a challenge to keep up with. As an investor, I'm a newer investor. I invested in a local business here about a year ago, and hope to share some of that experience with you today.
What's up, guys? My name is David Harvey. I grew up in Akron, Ohio. I am a entrepreneur. I like to focus on marketing, strategies, development, and I just have the entrepreneur spirit. I've had lots of successes, lots of failures, went homeless, came back, just kind of on this journey just for fun and the love of business. So I live locally here in Longmont. I actually started my third company actually locally here in Longmont, so that's why I'm here.
Nice. Hi there, everyone. Welcome. My name is Lorne Noble, CEO and co-founder of Simple Startup, a fractional finance and accounting firm supporting young businesses across Colorado primarily, but also across the US as a whole and internationally. And my background is as an analyst. I spent many years crunching some numbers on Excel. I'm proud to say that I'm one of those number geeks. Been working in Simple Startup for the last 7 years, leading that business, driving it forward, and actually supporting some fantastic local businesses, taking them from where they are today to where they want to go tomorrow. So I'm excited to be on this panel today and talking about equity and how that can help your business going forward.
Well, it's great to have everyone here. We're going to jump right in. I'm going to start with David Mans. We have two Davids, of course, so I'm going to make sure that I say everybody's last name every time. So David's going to be speaking much more from the investor's perspective as he has that experience. So we'll just jump right in. Why might a business want to take on an equity investment?
So a few reasons the business wants to take on an equity investor. Typically, the business could be a startup, a newer company, or perhaps a riskier business that is struggling to get traditional financing. And so and the equity investor is going to be a route to raise capital in a situation where you're not able to go to a bank to get a SBA loan for those various reasons. So a couple other reasons. One would be it's a situation where maybe you are looking to stimulate some growth in the business and are lacking perhaps some expertise or some resources. Bringing on an equity investor might be a great way to add some experience to your team where you might be lacking or having gaps. For example, perhaps you have a great product and an operations team and able to produce a product, but maybe you don't have a strong background in marketing. So bringing on an equity investor who does have that experience, say with marketing, would be a way to augment your team. And that would help you to both bring in some new capital as well as bring in some experience that would help your business with that growth.
Great. Thanks so much. So let's say you've made the decision to go ahead and seek that equity investment. What kind of business fundamentals are you looking for when you're investing in companies?
So for me, there are a couple things I was looking for and that I look for when I want to invest. One, just following up with what I was saying is a business where the environment and the situation will complement my skills and my background. As an equity investor, I'm not looking to just throw some capital to a business. I'm also looking to participate in the business as well. And depending on the situation, that might involve different levels of participation. It could be just in general overall business management, reviewing reports and guiding the management team, or it could even be a more involved direct management, even getting down into the day-to-day operations. But certainly, I'm looking for a team and a situation that complements my background and my skills. My background being primarily in information technology. Again, and not so strong, say in marketing. But in that environment, if there was a team that had a great product but struggled with marketing, that wouldn't be a good fit for me. On the other hand, if there was a team that had a great creative thinkers and a solid strategy, however, perhaps their information technology or business processes were a mess, a disaster, I would love to walk into a situation like that because I know that that's a situation that would complement my skills, that I'd be able to provide value to the business. And really, it's looking for a way to bring value to that business in addition to just the capital. So the capital would help enable the business, but it's that expertise and that guidance that also helps the business to achieve those strategic goals.
So that was some of the more tangible things that a group or a team would have that you'd be looking for. What about some of the intangible things, the qualities or character traits that you might be looking for in an entrepreneur you want to invest in or work with?
Sure. So, when it comes to business, there's also personalities involved at the end of the day, and I want to work with a business that it's something that I can be proud of. I want to work with a business that has a product or service that I can talk to people about and feel good about, that it matches my goals and values, and at the end of the day is something that where I feel that my contributions are creating something better, either for individuals or a community or really for the world in general. We all make the world a better place a bit at a time, and really it's in business where we can see our contributions help a community or help people that where we see that value.
So some of your responses have already touched on this, but maybe you could specifically speak to what are some of the things that you can bring, some of that value that you can bring beyond just the capital that you're offering to a team? And would this be something that all investors share in common?
Sure. So I think that, any investor, and not every investor is going to be a good fit for an investee. And you want to find those complementary skills, whether it's in general management expertise, whether it's in a specific part of the business like marketing or finance or IT or operations. I think it's important that you find a good fit. That when you're bringing on an equity investor, that's a very involved relationship. And as an equity investor, I'm looking for a team that I can connect with, where I can feel that I can be involved and help build something together, to where what I'm contributing is going to help the business achieve those strategic strategic goals. And really, as an equity investor, I'm getting involved in a business that's potentially higher risk but higher reward, and therefore there will be a lot of pressure, a lot of intensity to build something and build something fast.
Great, thanks so much. Why don't we pivot a little bit? David Harvey, our serial entrepreneur here, if you wouldn't mind giving us a little insight on the investee or the entrepreneur's perspective. How do you know if you're ready to raise capital or participate with equity investors?
Yeah, I mean, it really kind of comes down to each individual person, and each individual person who's on the entrepreneurship journey, they have their own vision, and no one else in the world will ever understand your vision. And that's the biggest key factor is being able to maintain your vision. But with that being said, you have to understand who you are as a person and what you lack in business. What are your weaknesses and what are your strong suits? There's hundreds of different segments to business, as Mans had touched on, between IT, marketing, sales, development, data analysts. There's so many different factors. You can't be the best at everything. You're the best at what you are best at. So really, going down is you simply asking yourself, what are you best at, and being honest with yourself and sticking to what you're best at. And being honest with yourself with what am I bad at? Like, what do I lack in, and don't focus your energy on the weaknesses, but nearly find someone to complement your weaknesses.
Great. And what do you think is the most important thing to know about your business when you're seeking an investor?
Yeah, and it's kind of a similar answer, like you look at yourself, you be honest with yourself, but then you also look at your business and you be honest with your business. But when you have the vision and when you're thinking ahead and you know exactly what you want and you wake up every single morning in your life and you see the same vision that you see, you got to look at the day-to-day as well. Like, are you where you're at, where you want to be, with what you're picturing and what you're envisioning in your head? No. And that's where you have to be honest, do an analysis on your own business. Is your business doing well? Is it doing bad? Why is it doing bad? How are you going to plug that hole? Is that something that complements your weakness? Like, is the reason why it's bad is because that's what you're doing bad at? And really just understanding where your business is at and where you personally are at within yourself on your journey, and being able to sit there and really think, like, what is it that I need? What is it that my company needs in order to become healthier?
So just going off of what you just said, so let's say you've decided it's time to get an investor. You're really, you want to find somebody who's a good fit. How do you go about doing that? And not just finding them, but also what kind of questions do you ask when you're actually talking to them to ascertain that good fit?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I'm a very direct person. I like to, I don't even talk about the business in the beginning. I just simply figure out who that person is in their heart. Like, that's the most important. If you can trust that person, if you can be honest with that person, and they're not trying to take away what your vision is. That's the biggest thing, is like, when you're raising money, it's because they believe in what you believe in. And you're the only person that will ever know, like, exactly where you want to be at in life. And when it comes to that investor, they will complement the things that are weaknesses, and then you trust that person's vision to connect with yours. But you are the sole driven person within that company. You are what you're trying to make the change in the world on what you're doing and what you believe in. And when it comes to it, I like to get to know the person first. Like, I'll be honest, there's millions of people out there that will invest. It's the matter of finding the right person, the person you can connect with, the person who you believe in, the person who believes in you, and making sure that you guys complement each other very well.
And you've such an interesting biography. You've started businesses. Have any of them taken on equity investment?
Well, this was my first business that I actually had raised money for. And there are complications. You know, you'll always have complications and disagreements, but it's like I said, it's about finding the right people who you can compromise with. Prior to this, I was all self-built. I mean, I started a company from literally $20, and I grew it into an entire retail store. I grew it into a skate park for kids to build a community. I was printing skateboards for multiple different bands, like famous bands and stuff, where they would market to my website, purchase from the website, and we would print the skateboards on there. As for that, like, I was always self-driven, but you know, I failed very quickly in that business model. The company grew pretty big. It was like $500,000 a year at the most, and that was when I was 19 to 21. And then I realized, like, I can't do everything. Like, there's so much to it once you get to that level that it just failed upon itself. And that's when I drove out to Colorado from Ohio. I just packed my bags and I restarted everything. Like, living in my car, had nothing, like, restarted my entire life. And, you know, I started meeting people. Like, whenever you go to find investors, like, if you're going out in the world trying to look for investors, that's one of the hardest things, is just to find that person that you can connect with. I mean, I used to go just downtown, right? I would pick out the biggest building, and I would walk into that building and figure out a way I could get the owner's phone number. You gotta take the chance. Like, if you see a guy driving a Lamborghini, obviously he has capital. So you just go up to the dude, talk to the dude, ask him how you can get better in life. Like, this is where I'm at in my current stage of business. How do I get to where you're at? How do I be able to get the network to you and just learn from you as a person, you know, and be humble about it, you know? And that's what people will respect about you, is the hustle, honestly, like the faith and believing in yourself. But it all starts within your own heart, you know? It all comes from yourself and just making sure that you understand who you are as a person.
And is there someone in this room who maybe has invested in your business?
Maybe so. Yeah. He was actually my investor, sitting next to me, David Mans.
Twist.
So plot twist. Yeah. Surprise. But no, it was great. You know, we had multiple offers. Like, we flew out to LA, spent some time in Huntington Beach. We own a skateboard manufacturer, so we're manufacturing for brands across the world. And we took a tour of one of the biggest manufacturers in Huntington Beach. Met up with a couple really wealthy dudes. One guy actually owns Incipio, like one of the biggest phone case companies in the world. And he actually taught me this piece of advice. He said, whenever you meet someone that you feel is willing to invest, just make sure that your future aligns with the person. Like, where do you see yourself in 3 years from now? And then I told him, obviously, and he's like, you need to think bigger. Think as big as you possibly can. If you think that, oh, I just want to own one store, let's say in Longmont, you need to say, I want to own a rocket ship that's going to the moon next year. And when you have that vision, you build upon that plan backwards. Now, it's never going to end up being there, but at the same time, you're gonna fall short of that. Versus falling short of owning a store, you're gonna fall short of a rocket ship. And so that's you know, I ended up meeting Mans before, and when this investor told me, hey, you know, like, I need an IT plan. This is the first guy I called. He goes to my church. Like, I was like, hey, give me a quote. You know, I have a potential investor in this company. And then he's like, well, I'm actually interested in investing. And I'm like, what the heck? So, like, everything will fall together. You know, you just got to be true to yourself and true to people and be humble about everything. Sorry, I probably went off track a little bit, but.
And you know, one thing that just jumped out at me that you were saying was going back to the vision for the business. You know, if every business owner, every entrepreneur starts off with a dream, with a vision, and you know, any investor, you know, they're not necessarily coming from that perspective. You know, they don't have that same vision or dream. And you know, the equity investor, you know, they're going to be concerned about you know, the growth and the stability of the business, and are coming from a little bit different perspective. However, it is important that when you're you're finding that equity investor that you are as the business owner, communicating that vision and that dream, and that the equity investor is on board with that. And so, when it comes to day-to-day operational things or how to go about doing things, we may have disagreements, but we are in agreement with the goal, with the vision of the business. And I think that's a very important thing to consider when finding a good match for an equity investor.
Absolutely, that's most important. One of the things that I learned on my journey from my last business to now is my whole focal point on life was drastically different. I started in business being like, oh, I want to be rich. I want to have all the money in the world so I can gloat to people, so I can feel better than people. And, when I lost everything, it opened my eyes. And when I moved into my car, it really, showed me the perspective from like making the person I was. It wasn't a good person, and I needed to humble myself down. And I changed my focal point from, oh, I want to start this business for money, to I want to start this business so I can build skate parks all across the world. I can build a community. I can help kids that are in need. And next thing you know, we have been so blessed with being able to do that. We've traveled to Colombia and hosted events for kids who literally are skateboarding on boards that are broken and screwed together. And I brought 10 boards there, and I made the world happy down there. And that is my ultimate goal with everything that I'm doing now. And if I could teach you one thing that I've learned for myself, don't make it about money. Money will come, money will follow. You'll be blessed with whatever happens along your journey. It's just make sure your heart's good. Make sure that you're promoting positivity and trying to help as many people as possible in life.
And I'd add to that to say that your passion, your drive, your purpose for your business is entirely infectious. And so therefore, that's what is attractive to the investors. That's what's attractive to the team. That's what's attractive to customers. And so you build kick-ass businesses off that alone.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
Well, speaking of attraction, I've always thought of the investor-entrepreneur relationship as being not dissimilar to an attempt to date online, which if anyone's done that will know it's a harrowing prospect. But I was just wondering, what was that moment when you guys more or less, I'd like to hear from both of you, realized that there was something there was some kind of chemistry, or what was that experience like of knowing this is the right person?
Did you guys go on a date? Where'd you go?
Yeah, where'd you go?
Many dates.
Where can I pick up investors,
We met at one of the coffee shops. I don't remember the name.
In the middle of COVID, by the way. So,
but no, I mean, I ended up having a history with him. It's a lot of faith based. I go to church with him. He actually baptized me, and when I start getting proud of myself, when I start going back to my old ways, he's a person that can be like, hey, you need to slow down a little bit. You need to humble yourself. You need to realize what the vision is, because we've made sales that I can't even comprehend how we do our financials. I can't even believe it within a year. And that can get to your head. You can feel like you're better than this other company, or you want to fight with this other company who's in the same business as you because you're better than them. And that part is what sold me for him, is the fact that he can complement my weaknesses. And my weaknesses, sometimes I get above my head. I become proud of myself. And, within my faith that I believe in, I need to maintain, the loving aspect of everyone and treating everyone the exact same as each individual person. And I didn't even expect him to invest. I just went to him to simply be like, hey, I have an investor, you want to make some money from doing IT development for us? Here's another gig for you. And he said it, and I just told everyone else, hey, no, I'm good. You guys are good people, but they're not going to be as in-depthly involved with me personally and in my personal self.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to what I was saying earlier about finding as an investor looking for a situation where which complements your skill sets. David has this energy and these creative ideas and these great things that that I don't come up with myself. And but what I bring in is a little bit of discipline and structure around that to kind of keep those things focused and moving towards those overall goals that we all agree on for the business. And so yeah, when I first started talking to him, I felt like it was a situation where our skills and capabilities were complementary, where each one of us brought something that would help the business. One thing I was just thinking of is, he when we had our first meeting and he presented me with this amazing, beautiful 100-page business plan, and I skimmed the first page and that was about it. And it's from an investor perspective, those detailed business plans are great when you're pursuing traditional financing or an SBA loan. They want to see those details. As an equity investor, I want to not read a 100-page report. I want to be able to have a conversation about the goals, about the opportunity, get enough information to do my own evaluation of the business and the opportunity, typically through asking for information or having conversations to make to help me understand if it's the right fit or what I feel is a good opportunity.
I mean, ultimately, you're looking to see the whites of their eyes, right? Because at this stage of the business, there's a lot of risk. You want to try and ensure that you minimize that risk by truly trusting each other, right? And I think that's one of the biggest things here. And I think that both Davids have been mentioning here about the relationship, ultimately, the kind of the courting of the investee and the investor. And ultimately, it's like a marriage. Right, it's almost even harder to get out of a business than it is to get out of a marriage these days. But I think that's what it is, and so really truly understanding each other is critical to making sure you're on the same path going forward.
Very true.
So we've been talking a lot about equity and the relationship between an investor and investee. But Lorne, turning to you now, I'm curious, what are some of the other alternatives to an equity investment that you might encourage people to consider?
Yeah, well, there are many alternatives to think about, and it all really somewhat depends on where and what stage of the business you're at. There are clearly more opportunities available the more mature your company is. There are somewhat less opportunities available as a kind of a growing fledgling startup without any credit. But really, the two main areas here that I want to focus in on is equity is one side of the equation. Debt and forms of debt is another side of the equation. And so what's the difference? Well, debt is a loan. It takes priority in terms of payback over the equity investor. So the equity investor ultimately takes on more risk. Not every company, to David's comments earlier, can actually take debt. They may not have the credit worthiness, but there are many different things that you can think of that are structured as debt. We mentioned traditional financing. So it depends at what stage of business that you're at, whether those loans, lines of credits are available to you, but that's always something you should be asking of your bank manager. You may be able to get more favorable terms and more availability from more local community banks than large banks, for instance. We mentioned SBA loans as well. Now, whilst they're not necessarily possible for every company to get, it's very, very wide-ranging, and many, many businesses can get them. The SBA loans is the Small Business Administration, just so that everyone understands that. It's a government-backed initiative to where they back these loans that lenders provide, ultimately de-risking these loans for lenders, which makes it possible for lenders to then actually take on board the normal risk of a startup company because their loan is somewhat guaranteed by the government. Other things to think about here are things like AR factoring. Now, what is AR, right? Okay, so accounts receivable. What is accounts receivable? That is when you issue an invoice, you're ultimately giving your customer some time to pay you back. You ultimately are giving them a line of credit. Now, it's not necessarily appropriate for all businesses, but businesses that do issue invoices to their customers, some of those customers may not want to pay them quickly, or their terms with the customers, they may agree that, hey, I will only pay you in 60 days. And that in its own can be crucifying to young businesses. I have to deliver my product, pay for it, actually deliver it to you, and then 60 days later you pay me. So you can actually find parties that will step in and give you money for that invoice, and they will wait to collect later from that customer. And there's a lot of nuances and detail there, but it's a way in which you can save waiting 60 days to get cash in the door. Other sorts of things, inventory. If you're a company with inventory, which you guys are, a manufacturing business, clearly there's a way in which you can finance that asset. You can go and speak to a bank and say, I can use this inventory as security. So you can, there are alternative ways to equity. I can use that asset as security for a loan, which means that I could qualify for financing when otherwise I might not have been able to do so. Purchase order financing. People will happily take purchase order financing, which is, hey, I'm talking to my suppliers, I'm making a purchase order with them. There are people who will actually pay or at least loan you money based off all of these purchase orders. There are equipment financing. Again, if you have an asset, equipment of some sort, if you are a manufacturing business, you can finance those assets. You don't have to use equity dollars to actually buy the equipment. And so all of these sorts of things are really important. I think the important thing to kind of state here is equity is super expensive if the company does well. It's super cheap if the company does not do well. So in that sense, you have to think about what is my equity dollars actually costing me? And if you look at many investors and venture capitalists, they're looking for at least an average of 30% IRR, right? Which is ultimately saying, I want 30% interest on my amount of money that I've owed you, compounding for each year that I've given that to you. So 30%, you think, wow, if a bank was going to charge me 30%, that's like more than credit cards. So actually, equity capital on its own, without any advice and sort of a thought partnership, is quite a costly endeavor. So always think about that when you're trying to kind of raise capital from other sources. Equity dollars can be quite expensive. There's a couple more things if we do have time. I've got a lot of answers to this question. So there are other things that I think are really important to consider. We've talked about debt financing and equity financing, being the equity investors. What we haven't really talked about is how could you make your business more efficient? So I've seen examples where companies build their business up. They've got proof of concept. They've got a minimum viable product. They're really excited. They're kind of scaled up to, let's say a few $100,000 of annual revenue. And they're like, great, now we know what we want to be doing and we want to go forward and we need to raise this capital. I've built my financial projections. I know that we need $1 million to do what we want to do in this business. The challenge is, or at least what I see very frequently, is the immediate default is to say, I need to raise that from equity dollars. And especially the larger your company goes, the more impact you can have from having efficient operations. And so examples of that would be, if you can just pull in and bring back those invoices terms, right? Bring that back from, okay, it's 60 days. How can we negotiate that down to maybe 2 weeks, or even not offer invoices in the first place and give credit to our customers? Instead, I could offer prepayments, for instance. That on its own can significantly reduce the amount of capital that your business may need. Same sort of thing with your accounts payable. How can I push back the payment terms to some of these people? Doing the opposite, obviously, of your accounts receivable. Negotiate with them. How can I do that? That on its own, changing AR and AP for companies that do have AR and AP, significantly impacts the amount of cash your business needs as it grows into the future. And there's all sorts of other kind of items as well there, like working with prepayments, customers. I've got companies who are subscription businesses and they're charging month by month. Think about ways in which your customers may be able to fund your business. Think about ways in which you can change your monthly subscriptions into a quarterly, biannually, or even annual prepayments there. These are ways in which your customers are actually funding your business, which means in turn you need less capital from investors and or debt, and therefore making your business that bit more efficient.
Sounds like a lot of options, a lot of alternatives to consider.
I didn't mean to overwhelm everyone, but happy to answer any other questions if people want to reach out.
So if you are looking into alternatives to equity financing, when would be the right time for a company to start doing that?
I mean, I think all of these are straight away. So like speak with the bank straight away, build the business with your primary banking partner straight away, talk to them about, traditional financing, talk to them about lines of credit, etc. Understand what your options are. I think do that soon. So I'd say do that straight away. Speak to, if you're thinking about raising, if your game plan is to be raising equity capital, I would also say it can take quite a bit of time. Now, David may have, had a couple of those dates and David may have written a check fairly quickly, but that's not always the case. So I would say that, treat it like a relationship. You're courting this person. You're trying to build a relationship. No one wants to give you money unless they know and trust you. So start building that trust today. So if we were to say that, from not meeting an investor to actually writing an investor check could take, depending on the size, could take 6 months, right? It could take 9 months. You may get lucky and you can do it between 3 and 6. But anyway, it takes time. So start the relationships today and to follow up on the commitments. And what I would say is, how do you build trust? Well, you do what you say you're going to do. You're in integrity with yourself. And so if you then speak to an investor and say, hey, today's not right for me. It's not right now. Come back to me when, right? And so if you hear that situation, your follow-up should be, well, perfect. I would love to follow up with you. Can I give you updates on my company every month? And they're usually not going to say no. So you say, great, I'll give you updates on my company every month. Great. So you send those updates when you say you're going to send those updates. And that is building a relationship. And that's going to help you when you do need to raise the capital later. So start today.
Start today, everyone. You heard it here first. So we've got these two buckets. We've got our equity and our debt. We have something that falls a little in between, and I'd love to hear your take on it. So convertible notes, another way that people raise money.
Yeah, convertible notes are very prevalent, at least in the Colorado kind of funding ecosystem and across the US as a whole. There are alternatives to this, but really a convertible note, what is it? It's a note, which is a loan that converts at a predetermined price and a predetermined time. So what a convertible note is, ultimately, an investor will say, well, actually, I'll take a step back. Why do they exist in the first place? They exist because people wanted to stop this valuation debate. So David says to David, hey, I think your company's worth $1 million. And David goes, no, it's worth $10 million, right? And you have this debate about what is the right price upon which I'll buy stock in your company. And so convertible notes existed to stop that valuation debate and to instead say there isn't enough milestones today to really put an accurate valuation on your company. And so what they basically did is to say, right, let's start it as a loan and we'll let someone else price it later. And then we will just get a bit of a benefit there because we'll buy it at a slight discount to what that is priced at later. There are some other nuances of this that I won't go into the technical details, but that's generally speaking what it is. It's a hybrid product. It's part debt that turns into equity at a later date.
That was a pretty straightforward description of a pretty complicated thing. So thank you very much for that. So a lot of companies, they definitely reach out to consultants in order to help them with this whole process. How do you reconcile the costs that they charge and the return on investment they might have on your company? And can you give a few examples?
Yeah, it's a fun one to try and answer. It's difficult to kind of put a return on investment on my own hours here, but
justify your existence for us. Thank
exactly,
you.
and go. You've got 30 seconds. So I think that a couple of things. We've talked a lot today about trust. And I think one of the examples I'm going to give is transparency, and transparency also builds trust. A couple of examples that I've seen, one in which if you find people in your company, this is a wider kind of response, but if you find people in your company and or advisors and or kind of service providers or anything that aren't really transparent, that aren't willing to say to you, here's how we are doing this, who aren't willing to teach and educate you about what they're doing, the chances are either they don't know what they're doing or they're trying to hide something about what they are doing. And I've seen examples of this where, even senior accounting professionals, controllers at companies doing so conspicuously in a company, they were the only people who knew how their accounting worked. The challenge was when they got rid of this person, they suddenly realized the mess that sat beneath. This person was the only person who knew how to do it because they were doing it wrong for so many years. And it cost this company over $200,000 over multiple years to actually fix the mistakes and the tax liabilities that this company had. So that's one example. And I think there's another example to get good advice is What we as a company do and support our clients with is to kind of help them forecast the future, right? So that's part of financial planning, financial management, financial forecasting. Off the back of that, you're going to understand that, hey, we need to raise this amount of money. What's the best next step? Should that be equity? Should that be debt? Should that be something else? Should we change our business model? All of the things that I mentioned earlier. But what I often see is people can raise and go down a certain path and not realize what happens as a next step to that action. So I think that the return on investment really here is we help clients look through not just what's going to happen in this round, but with the round afterwards, and how is this round going to impact that next round. So the strategy there could be option A, you go and do something a little bit ill-advised, I suppose, in that first round, and that restricts you from the second round, and suddenly your company's dead and out of money. To an alternative where actually if you're thinking it through with a thoughtful partner, someone who does educate you along the process, who tells you exactly why these things exist, who if you have a question about, hey, I don't understand the math behind this, who sits down with you and makes sure that you understand it, that type of partner is worth its weight in gold. That type of partner will take you from option A, that path B rather, into a really significant second round, third round, and actually a really growing and successful and healthy business going forward. So it's difficult to put a number on this per se, but rather keep an eye out for the people who are who you feel like in your gut are hiding things from you and not being fully transparent and fully comfortable with you.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like that kind of goes back to what I was talking about. You know, you focus on what you do best, and if the value is really there for a consultant, if you're not good with financials, it's really smart to hire someone who does that on a day-to-day basis. It's worth the investment because your thought process, if you're a marketer and you're trying to do financials, your thought process up to that point, you know, you think that it's going to work, and then all of a sudden you lose everything. It's better. It's like paying for safety, you know, just trust the people that do what they do best.
Yeah, ultimately it's a form of insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got a few minutes left here. I am going to go to some of the questions that have come through. So the first one is, are there certain businesses that are better suited for raising equity? I'll open the floor to everybody.
I'm happy to start. You can. What do you want to?
Well, just one thing that comes to mind on that for me is that there are certain types of businesses, but also the goals for the business, which is something I was thinking about earlier, which is, you know, you do want to evaluate what is your long-term strategy. If you want a business that you can rapidly grow with the goal of eventually selling it off, that's a perfect environment to bring on an equity partner. If you want a business that you want to hold and run and operate and grow for many years, an equity investor might not be a good situation.
I think I'd add to that as well. I think it's great response. I think I'd add to that as well to say where the business may be at their particular life cycle of a business. Clearly, as you become more mature, there are more options available to you. And yeah, so I think that there are certain types of businesses too. So a traditional equity investor is looking for growth, right? And there are certain types of businesses that need rapid growth very quickly from day one. Why? Because they may have a new novel product that they actually need to bring out into the market, and they have a little bit of a competitive advantage by being a first mover. So under that scenario, they're trying to get market share, and so therefore an equity investor is someone who would help them generate that equity share of the market and grow the market, grow the product and offering quickly before the competitors arrive. So there's definitely a different type of business and a different product that may or may not be available in the market today that could favor an equity investor as well.
Yeah, I kind of go a different perspective. Like I when I build a business plan or I'm looking at developing a new company, I look at money doesn't exist in this world. Like, build it based on that. How can you have the least amount of overhead? How can you have the least amount of investment? You know, you get, the more money you get, the more you give away, essentially. And until you do that, like when you find like your direct needs on what you're building, you'll know the exact amount you need to raise. And for us, it was a question like when I was in the skateboarding industry prior, it was I was relying on all these other different companies and manufacturers and distributions, and like when they shut down, I can't get product, which means I can't make money. So my next question I asked myself on my second journey was, how can I become the industry? And obviously that's manufacturing. And when it comes to manufacturing, like there's no way around it. Like I tried. It's you have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment you have to buy. And so at that point I knew, like, I looked at my bank account and I'm like, well, it's going to be Taco Bell for the next week. So it's time to raise some money. So, it's all based on that perspective and what your needs are within the company and what you're building.
Thank you so much. We do have one more question. We have a few more minutes left. So I'm looking for an investor for my business. What are some must-dos and definitely don'ts to finding that person?
Networking. Go out to the biggest building in your city and just go and try and meet the person. And who knows who they have connections with. It's literally networking and making sure that you sit in a blank room, literally no furniture, nothing, just blank wall. You stare at that wall and you picture every single detail that you would ever need to know about your company. Every single thing. You can build an entire business plan and have a $10 million company with no investment. Business plan and networking. That's literally it.
I thought you were going to say hang out at the Lamborghini garage, right?
I would add on to that. Certainly, start with your personal network. If you're launching this business or you have a new startup, be proud of what you're doing. Be excited about it. Start talking to the people around you, your friends, your family, other people that you've been in contact with, and start putting it out there that you're looking for an investor. You might be surprised at what comes up. Don't be afraid of that business and that opportunity.
And I would add to that as well, is when most businesses start, they're looking to the relationships that they already have and some deep pockets in terms of friends and family capital. The thing that I would say here is when doing so, often a lot of young companies raise it without kind of formal documentation. I would urge, what must you do is to manage expectations appropriately, especially with friends and family, so that you can clearly say, this is what we're going to be, this is what we're going to be doing with the money. This is how the money is going to be structured. This is it. This is where you would get any return, if anything, sort of thing. So manage expectations appropriately. Do get kind of good formal documentation in place, especially with friends and family at those early stages.
I have one more thought on that, actually. So when you're building your business plan, one thing that I enjoy doing is you got to know your competition. Go out, make a Google sheet, write down every single company that does the same thing, whether it's a local target base or a national target base. Ask yourself the questions: what is their pricing? How can I write down their business model? And you take all of the data and you look at it and you look at it and you like, what is the similar data between all these? Why are they doing that? And how can I do the opposite of that? When you come to marketing, like, if you're the one person who's doing the opposite of everyone else, you're going to have eyes on you. And that's how you're going to start to grow that. I feel that investors like that a lot. You got to be different. You got to stand out from everyone else in the world, like, if you want to make it.
And on that sense, if you're following everyone else from a marketing perspective, you're paying the high price because there's high demand for those particular types of services. So kind of finding that needle in the haystack, the difference, I think, is a great idea.
I think you should be prepared with a 60-second elevator pitch where you can clearly and simply articulate, what the business is doing, what is the investment strategy, and how an investor would be involved and participate in that. Practice that with yourself. Practice that with friends and family, to where you're comfortable and confident being able to clearly state that what that is to potential investors.
Yeah, close your eyes and know where you want to be in the future. You got to know that. Like, every day you got to live and breathe that and see it and dream it every single day. And you got to have that drive and that fire, Put that in the elevator pitch, man. People will know your passion. People will see your drive, and that's how you become attractive to someone who's made it farther than you in their journey.
Well, we're just about out of time, but we do have one more question. Luckily, it's a yes or no question, so we're just going to slip it in under the wire. NDAs before discussions with investors, yes or no?
Yes.
I would say yes. You're going to want an NDA for many situations, including investors and a new startup.
I mean, I would agree with both of you from your perspectives. I think that often, a lot of the time, you're going to get pushback to say, no, I'm not going to sign one. Because especially a lot of investors who, and if you're starting with an idea, for instance, right? Here, I want you to sign an NDA. So this should be a yes or no answer. I'm giving a long one. I think the context here is be prepared for pushback on the NDAs. If you have, if you're Coca-Cola and you're talking about your ingredients, of course you need to have protection about that. If you're talking about, be a little bit mindful about what you're actually trying to protect. If it's just an idea, be careful that could cause conflict with the investor you're trying to actually speak to.
All right, Lorne, David, and David, thank you so much. This has been a very informative panel. I've really appreciated hearing your perspectives. So we'll be back very shortly with another panel discussion, which has quite a lengthy title, but I'll get into it. How investors think, how to present yourself and talk about your business, and what not to put in a pitch deck. All very, very important topics. Just before we go, I do want to shout out a couple of our amazing sponsors, our gold level sponsors, Biz West, Left Hand Brewery, and Docketly, as well as our connected level sponsors, Downtown Longmont and High Plains Bank. Thank you so much, and we'll be back shortly.